Hey, count on to the Geekcast. This is Retro Ray here again. We're here talking with David Nakayama, who basically, if you have to know who he is. He has art covers from Marvel to Dynamite to Image. I mean, he's got art covers everywhere. His art is phenomenal. We're going to talk to him about attending the Kubert School and getting to work with Joe before he passed away. Then going from there to Top Cow, and then up to what he's currently working on some of these variants. He also worked in the gaming industry. But before we do, we got to give a quick shout out to one of our big supporters. Without comic books and without this store, we wouldn't have any of the cool stuff. Dragons of their Alamo Ranch, of course, where you can get all your cool gaming and comic books and subscriptions. You definitely want to go there. It's a cool place to lay back and chill. You can play games with your friends, hang out. And like I said, thanks to them. Now, let's get David in the room. It was hard to choose. Pretty good, sir. It was hard to choose what background to use because you have so many arts to pick from.
Thank you.
So
for my background, I chose my car.
Nice. Oh, I mean, of course, if people don't know, he is in Hawaii. It's Honolulu, right?
Yes, sir. I am in Honolulu right now. I should have said aloha. I usually do that. But, yep, it's about 2 o'clock in the afternoon here in Honolulu.
Nice. I bet you're having better weather than we are.
It's not bad. It's pretty sunny today.
Yeah, now here it's muggy and it's starting to get cold. So I wanted to talk to you about when you got into, a lot of people don't know is that you basically got into the illustration, went to art school, and you attended school. And then from there, you actually went back to school and went to Kubert School of Art. And you went there for a little bit before. So how was it learning from legends at that school?
It was definitely one of the big selling points. It's literally the Kubert School, founded by the legendary Joe Kubert himself. So I got out of a four-year university. I had a degree, but I wasn't good enough to do comics. My art was not at that level yet. Wow. And I knew I needed to keep going. The Kubert School was there. It was advertising a lot in comics at the time. Yeah, I went there for 2 years. I didn't do the third year because I started getting work, but the 2 years I spent there were fabulous. It is very self-driven. You have to put in the work, but the Kubert brothers and all the other faculty there, I thought had very good advice and good projects, and I made the most of it. Wow. And the story I really wanted to tell you about Kubert School and about Joe is I didn't have Joe. Joe only taught the third year, but I got an opportunity to do a short story for Dark Horse and an opportunity to do an internship at Top Cow. Before I left, though, it was really important to me to go check in with Joe. Yeah. Hey, Mr. Kubert, I really respect you very much. Do you think it's a good idea for me to go pursue these opportunities? Do you think I'm good enough? Or should I stay the third year so that I can have the classes with you? And I would have done whatever he said because I trusted him, right?
Yeah.
He told me to go ahead and go for it. So I did. And I only felt good about it because I had his blessing. If I had any, lingering fear, or if he said anything like, maybe you need a little more work, I would have stayed for that third year and gotten better before I gave it a real shot. So that's the one time I ever had a long conversation with Mr. Kubert, and it was really special. Obviously, it was sort of, it put me on a certain path.
Wow. And you mentioned, I've heard that you went to Top Cow, you worked with Silvestri, you also were there with Tyler Kirkman and Mike Choi, which of course you guys don't know, of course, he's from San Antonio. How was it working with them? Because basically both of you, or the three of you, were basically, getting your feet in the door and starting out from there.
Very much. It was a really memorable time. Everyone was starting off as an intern, and there was a more senior guy there, Eric Basildou. I don't know. I don't know if you know him. He goes by eBass. He's also in the industry. Have been more established there, and we saw the previous class, if you want to call it that, like Francis Manipul, David Finch, had just kind of finished their stint there, and they were leaving at the time. And even Michael Turner, actually, the Top Cow offices were moving, and when the first day I showed up at their first office, Michael Turner was there, so I got to chat with him and hear from him. I didn't ask him about my stuff. I asked him how he thought when he drew, and he said something that still sticks with me to this day. Same with Mr. Manipul. He took a look at my stuff and said, hey, like there are little bases for style in here, but you're not quite there yet. And he was right. But I had these little sort of run-ins with people, very brief but meaningful. Kubert, Turner, Manipul, and that set me up to go and learn, I think, at the Top Cow studio. We were all there to learn from Mark Gold. It's not normal to have time, industry legend, and be an apprentice, sort of be a journeyman, like be there on the job learning from him. And he had very odd hours. He came in very late. So we would match those hours specifically so that we could maximize time, getting his input, watching him work. And he would go around to each person's station and give tips and tricks. Like I don't know if people know this, but like he's a fabulous teacher. And like it's no accident that people like Michael Turner, like Manipul, like Finch, hopefully some of us were discovered and fostered by him. You know what I mean? Like who has that kind of track record bringing talent into the industry more so than Mark Silvestri? I would say nobody. He understands. He knows like a spark when he sees it. He knows how to foster it, and he was a fabulous teacher. Like even though I was like a fairly cartoony artist by comparison, he still knew exactly how to advise me.
Wow. See, that's freaking awesome. I mean, and of course, you went from there, and then you also worked a time in gaming or video games. And the one thing that all the covers that you've been doing, I mean, you did some interior artwork for comics at one point too, but the biggest thing was you transitioned on a set of covers that came out a while back, and I'm gonna pull those up real quick. And these were, these were covers that kind of tied in, I guess, your gaming industry and comics as well. It's kind of they fit together. I'm gonna pull it up actually closer to where you can actually, the people who are watching can see. But you did some of the gaming stuff that in the background you saw there. How was it being able to do that, like to bring your two worlds together?
That's it. That's bringing my favorite two things together. Like I've always been sort of equally interested in game as a creator. As a kid, like all the games were made in Japan, so like there was no path to do games. It wasn't realistic.
Yeah.
So I got more and more interested in comics instead. But then, as game development shifted more to the West, over time, I found myself at a crossroads. Like I wasn't making that much doing comics. An opportunity to do concept art for games on a MMO called City of Heroes. Maybe you guys remember that.
Yeah.
That popped up, and I had my first kid coming along at the same time. So it was a tough choice, but I did decide to leave comics and go pursue the game thing.
Wow.
Like I said, which I didn't even realize was a possibility. When I was a younger person. So I did that for a while, but about 5 years into doing games, I started missing comics. So I reached back out to my my comic book editors to come back and at least do covers, to keep a toe in the water. And then fast forward another I guess, gosh, is it 20 years now? I find myself full-time freelance, mostly in comics, for the last 7 years or so. But whenever a game thing comes along, I'm very happy to do that. Like, so if a Fortnite, for example, or the cover art for Contra recently, or
Yeah.
the Apex Legend comic books, like, I love game stuff. Like, you're astute to notice that in my work, but I love game stuff, and anytime I can possibly draw it, I would. And so to me, like, the coolest comic series or property or whatever that could ever happen is, like, let's say someone decided to make a Horizon Zero Dawn comic, or a Final Fantasy comic, or you know
Wow.
a Zelda comic. My God, like Metroid. Geez, like, there's so many amazing characters that I love from video games that I would absolutely love to draw covers for.
Wow. I mean, you did technically recently, you did an awesome, which it's hot right now. You did this cover, which was the Turtles and Naruto variant. I mean, how was it
Thank you.
doing that one?
It's almost the exact same feeling, right? Like the way I was describing video games a minute ago. I love that stuff, and I love anime just as much. But if you think about it, like, the times when anime has crossed over in any way with the West is almost zero. It almost never happens.
Yeah.
Like, people don't even understand how big and important a crossover is like that, because that's as far as I know, the first time a major Western property and a major anime property have crossed over,
Yeah.
where Western artists like me would even have a chance to draw it. It's kind of huge. So I hope there's more of that in the future. And, like, Marvel just dropped an announcement about Godzilla versus the Marvel Universe.
Yes, I was actually just
They
going to
did
ask
like
that next.
wouldn't that be cool? And they did, like, oh, look at that. Wow, you had it like right there. I guess you
Yeah.
and I are thinking on the same lens, huh? Marvel last week did an art exchange between Umberto Ramos and the guy that does My Hero Academia, whose name
Yeah.
has dropped out of my head for some reason. So there's like mutual respect and fandom across all of this, and I just hope that means that in the future we can all draw these things that we all love.
So with the big news that dropped, that of course I'll bring it back up. With this big news dropping, I mean, are are you really like happy and want to jump at the chance to do a Godzilla cover variant? Was that something that you would be like 100% on board to do? And you already have any ideas that are popping in your head that you would love to try?
Yes, that's enticing to me. I actually did do a DC version of this. I don't know if you know about this, but I did a
Yes, that one I did.
connecting cover. Yeah, it has Godzilla on one side and it has King Kong on the other, and I spotlighted Wonder Woman and Batman, one on each cover. So I've actually been really lucky already. I got to do, the Godzilla versus comics crossover on the DC side, and I would
Yeah.
absolutely love to do, the Marvel thing if that works out. But we'll see. We'll see. I hope that works out.
No, that cover, and it did so well. I mean, it did series runs for the Godzilla and DC series. So I know this series is going to be just as good because the stories they can use, because the same premise of the characters they have to play with. Like when you did your connecting piece, it was, Wonder Woman and then Superman. If you did the cover piece again, I can imagine two characters you would choose for it. It would be awesome to find it.
Yeah, wouldn't that is quite a see, I know something about this series that I can't say, so you'll just have to wait a little bit longer to hear
Okay.
about it.
Hey,
But
dang, I'm
rest
definitely working.
assured that if I get the chance to do it, there's a lot of love here, and there are a lot of characters I would absolutely love to draw in that scenario. But big respect to Lanil Yu's promo piece. That looked amazing.
No, it did definitely. The other question I was going to have, I know a lot of your art is all digital, and you do actual ink art and
Sometimes,
pencil
yes.
sometimes.
Yeah, it really just depends on how much time I have. Like, if I was smart, I would draw everything traditional, have the cover to sell, and finish in digital. But what has happened recently is my desire to work on cool things is greater than my desire to to sell a lot of originals. So I end up doing I end up not doing it and doing it digital so I can get to finish quicker. But there's
Oh,
quite a few. There's dozens and dozens of covers where I did do that, where I drew it on paper, then I'll scan it in and do a little polish on digital. And hopefully you can't tell the difference between which ones are done that way and which ones are done digital. But there are quite a few, especially the color bleed covers that I do that way or have done that way.
yeah. So the Wonder Woman cover that you did, that was an exclusive where she was black and gold, the gold armor and shield.
The black, white, and gold one, yeah. That is a slightly different thing. That one actually has like fully rendered character. It has a pattern in the background. It's not, like when I do the color bleed things, it's basically like a negative space cover. But yes, this one, still to this day, some people think is my best cover. Um, but there's this other style that I do where the background color purposefully bleeds in a flat way into the character space. I call that a color bleed. It's sort of a derivative of the negative space style, but without, things dropping out. I like to have the holding line there. Exactly.
This one right here is the one that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, this is what I would call a color bleed. It's cheating a little because there's that diamond pattern in the background, but the pink has been rendered so that it purposefully, in a designy way fades into the background. I really like the look of that. I like the way it puts the emphasis on the stuff that isn't flat, you know?
Yeah. No, it's a great cover. I mean, I actually have that cover too. uh, One of the things going back to the
Thanks for
original
getting it.
art, yeah, the original art, like this is an 11 by 17 piece that you did. It's beautiful. So on something like this, what do you normally charge for a commission piece like this?
I used to do a lot of commissions. It used to be kind of that's a perfect example of a certain category that I do now. But just to give you a little background, I used to make all my money at conventions and pay for the conventions by drawing pictures. But things have really changed in the last few years, where a lot more people want to get in line and buy the exclusive comics and get a signature and take a photo and this kind of thing. And so I find that I don't even have about 10 minutes to draw. uh,
Oh, wow.
so it's kind of impossible to do commissions, like whether I wanted to or not. So what has changed is I've adapted, and now I take like as many remarks as I can fit in. That way, I make the most people happy. It isn't very expensive, so people who want original art can get something. But what you just showed is what I call a deluxe custom commission.
Oh,
So
wow.
sometimes I'll make one slot available, and it I'll take the entire weekend to do it. I'll chip away throughout the weekend whenever I have a minute here and there, and I'll do a cover quality image like that, and that's going to run in the thousands. So the vast majority of people, I'm only charging about 100. I think we're doing 150 for a remark, and then something like the Psylocke commission, which is basically 1 hour away from being a cover. Like if I put that into Photoshop and finished it up, that's almost a cover. It's a little cheeky for a Marvel cover, but it could be a cover. Those would be multiple thousands. Now this Black Cat thing you've got here, this was back when I was doing more. What does it say? That's 620. Oh no, that's recent. It says 2024.
Yes.
I don't even remember drawing it that recently, but yeah, I used to do, like I don't know, like in the $500 to $800 range. It feels like one of those to me. It doesn't
Wow.
have any kind of background treatment. It is a full figure, but I can't justify that price for the amount of time anymore, if that makes sense,
Oh, okay.
because it takes the whole weekend.
I can imagine. That's crazy.
Yeah. I
But
wish I was faster. Some people do like unbelievable commissions. They do a whole handful. Like I was just watching Ray Q is a fabulous artist. He was at the Tokyo show, I guess, this week, and he's doing handfuls of illustrations, and it's just amazing to me. I guess maybe the difference is that he's not there selling comics the way that I am, but nonetheless, it's like remarkable the number of commissions he can do at quality live. Pretty amazing.
wow. Where can fans find you in a convention in the U.S. this year?
DigiCon in Florida. I think it's February this year. We almost always do San Diego, New York. And right under that, do put C2E2. We almost always do that, but this year might be a challenge. And then I try to do something like 6 shows, like 6 major shows a year. And beside the 3 or 4 that are must-dos, I try to mix it up and we go different places. So in the last few years, we've been to Dallas last year. We were at Heroes Con before that. And we're trying to like keep that going so that I'm not just restricted to a few places, but kind of get around as much as possible.
Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on Countdown City Geeks, and I look forward to talking to you again, and hopefully maybe talk about the Godzilla Marvel crossover.
Please,
Yeah,
please let that happen. That would be amazing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you
thank you
very
so much
much.
for having me on. I'm so sorry about the connection. I don't know if it's because I'm out here in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or what, but it seems like it's stable right now. So I can at least say thank you for having me. Hello to all your audience, and appreciate you guys for supporting my work very much.
Thank you. And like I said, you can go find him at his website on Instagram, Facebook. Any other additional sites that you have?
My big ones right now are Instagram, Facebook, ArtStation, Blue Sky. I think that's about it right now.
Okay, cool. Well, all right, sir. Thank you very much. And guys, go like and follow him so you can see all the cool work he's got in projects. He'll drop it once he's done with the artwork. And we're not done. I mean, he's popping from Dynamite to DC to Marvel, and it's all great work. So don't miss it. Thanks again, guys, for following.